let's now move on to part 4 of the panel session. Now we're going to go over practical tips for impact. So hopefully this question gives us some actionable takeaways for competitions related to funding. So my question is, what's your number 1 tip for making a business plan stand out to investors or judges who are probably seeing a number of business plans, during the same day? So it's typically for them about deciding which ones to, pursue further or consider further. So what's the best tip for making a business plan stand out?
But I think one of the best things that you can do is really show that you know the landscape and that you know who your competitors are. I talk to a lot of founders who have built something and they think that I'm the first one, we're the very first ones to have, there's nothing new under the sun. There are people putting bioreactors in space. There is nothing new under the sun. And so don't kind of shy away from looking into who the competitors are because you think that you can hide your competitors from the investors and that you'll convince them that you have a first mover advantage. Don't. Good investors will know the industry and they will ask you questions about your competitors, what they're doing and why, and you need to have the answers to those questions. A lot of the kind of pitches that I see that actually ending in success are really, really difficult because the investors ask really, really difficult questions and really make the founders sweat. But at the end of the day, if you're able to kind of pass that bar for due diligence, that's actually a really, really strong signal that you've thought about this and you believe in what you're doing, you believe that it's real.
I can add something to that, and I guess it's really important, especially if you are presenting your idea to an investor or judge, in order to make them feel smart rather than trying to make yourself look smart in front of them, right? And what I mean by that is that there are many co-founders or founders that I see when they're presenting something, they try to use big words, all those technical jargons and all those terminologies just to show to the investors that look how much I know, how smart I am. But based on my experience, it doesn't work, honestly. On contrary, the investors, they would love to have this simplicity and to totally understand what's your idea about. And after your presentation, they tell themselves, okay, I totally understood what's that, and that works, that makes sense. I guess this is something you need to work on. And the way you can have some practice with this is just to improve your storytelling skills. And by storytelling skills, I mean that when you are presenting something for investors, avoid just talking about the product itself. Try to set the stage, talk about the main problem that exists there, how you're going to fix it, what would be some impacts from that. And to Matt's point, the good thing is that during the business plan, you have heard a lot. You gathered lots of information, right? You interviewed with some potential users. You have seen some reports from the market. So try to use some of them while you're storytelling. If you had a good interview with someone, some of your users, show that quote in front of your presentation for the investors to show them you already know the market. You have talked about your target market and things like that.
Excellent. So, this brings me to one conversation. Reads many business plans on a regular basis and decides to, whether move forward with them or not. And one specific thing that he told me was, when I'm reading these business plans, why do they all look like they assume I don't know the market? So whenever you're writing a business plan, make sure that you're writing it for someone who is knowledgeable, experienced, and well-informed. So the tone of your business plan is very important. You should not write it in such a way that is meant to surprise the reader, or you sound like too excited about certain, magnificent size of this market. Because if you express it with that tone, it gives the idea that for you it is surprising, and that's not good either, right? So make sure that what you're writing it for someone who is well informed, knowledgeable, and smart. And definitely the tone of the business plan makes a difference to connect with the person who's reading it. All right. Maybe for the next question.
Yeah, sure. And I would like to add on to that it's good to, maybe to summarize what you said, know your audience, right? So you want to know who the investor is. You want to do a little bit of background check so that you know the tone in which you want to write your business plan or something like that. But thanks for that. So the next question we have is, what are the potential benefits and risks of using generative AI tools while drafting a business plan?
Yeah, that's a good question because definitely AI now is everywhere, right? And everybody's talking about it. However, still we don't see some realized instant benefits from that. But still companies are investing a lot. Like our CEO, for example, at Manulife, in this quarter, we announced that being an AI-powered company is part of our strategy. So that's one of our top priorities as well. But before talking about it, I would love to categorize AI impacts maybe in three main buckets. And that is how I frame that. The main type of impacts, the first group would be linear impacts. The second one would be exponential impacts, and then transformational impacts, right? With linear impacts, I mean you can save some time by doing same works. Like before AI, it might took you, for example, I don't know, 3 hours, 4 hours to analyze 10 websites when you're doing a market research. So now with AI, you can do that in 10 minutes, right? So that's what I call linear impact. The exponential impact is when you can do more with AI. Like in past, it was almost impossible for you to analyze 200 websites, for example, to get the research and numbers. But now with AI, you can actually do that. You can analyze 200 websites and get all those insights and information from it. But the real impact actually lies in the transformational impact. And by transformational, I mean we have to change the way we are doing the business by using AI. And maybe the analogy of electricity can be helpful here, because the way we can look at AI is looking at it as electricity when it was invented. I don't know if you have any idea when electricity was invented by Tesla or Edison or others, but it is actually around 1880, right? And it took almost 40 years for businesses to actually start using the electricity in their manufacturing units. One of the pioneers was Ford when they actually started all those car manufacturing in 1920. And the reason behind that is that manufacturing facilities and floors and design of the companies was not ready to use AI before electricity. Before electricity, they had one central source of power from steam engines, right? And they didn't know how should they change the workflows and everything. So what I mean here is that currently we have the electricity, but it's like we are in 1880. Definitely it's not going to take us 40 years in order to use AI, but it might take a few years for all these companies to define new workflows. And that would be the real transformational impact of AI. But getting back to your question about how we can get some benefits from AI in business plan, definitely there are some pros and cons with that. You have to be careful about it. When it comes to some useful use cases, you can use AI in order to do your research. For all those market research, you can leverage AI. Maybe a cool use case would be you can define a type of your customer, a persona of your clients, and start having interview with them in order to understand some of the pain points. You can also use AI to populate all those templates. So hopefully if you have 3, 5, 6 pages of the main content of your business plan, you can ask AI to populate different business plans for different audiences with different tones or outlines. And also with financial calculations, I guess AI still can help you. However, you should be super careful about it, because whenever you have some key information, especially for key information, always try to double check that, because it's still, even the most advanced tools and LLMs they are still not 100% accurate when it comes to calculations and numbers and everything. Privacy also is an important thing. For example, with companies like Manulife, definitely we have our in-house developments of AI models, so we really care about it. But if you are going to have your own personal business plan and using some publicly available tools, be careful about the privacy as well, especially if you are working on some sort of confidential business plans, for example.
All right, so from what I understand, the usage of AI that you're recommending is not simply asking ChatGPT for a business plan, rather having a 5-6 page of your authentic idea at the beginning of the process, then using a generative AI tool to perhaps expand on that or help you improve it, and then again at the very end, having your healthy dose of human intelligence on top of the final output. So there's human, AI, human again. Is this the process?
I think the one thing I would add to that too is that, I mean, if you think about a business plan as a tool and not just like a deliverable document, you know, you can use AI to like market research. I use it for market research all the time. You could use it to generate a template for you. But we live in this strange kind of world now where, you know, if I'm an investor and I see a like 70-page business plan, that used to kind of mean that there's like a proof of work that has gone into that. Like, oh, this person actually thought about this a little bit, or a group of people, and they actually had to write all of this out. Whereas now, you know, a lot of text is not necessarily a signal for like, we deeply thought about this and deeply considered it. And so I think you have to kind of keep that in mind, that like, you know, you can create as long a business plan as you want. You can just keep prompting GPT-5. You can keep adding sections. But unless you've really thought about it, I mean, that's not going to sell me, and it's probably not going to, you're probably not going to sell yourself either on like, okay, I actually believe that this is a good business plan and this is a good strategy to take.
So my next question is about demystifying a daunting section of a business plan, a section that is daunting for everyone except for engineering students and except for engineering students who have passed this course. So how do you write financial projections if you've never run a business before?
You're right, definitely you need some sort of a skill set in order to work on that kind of financial projection. And again, I have to echo that the financial projection is definitely the heart of your business plan. So the way I look at financial projection is, I can see it in two different sections. One is more like financial modeling, so all those assumptions that we earlier talked about it. I guess for that part, you should know about the market, you have to learn about it, and I guess that would be enough if you're part of the process to learn about all those assumptions, especially the market. But the second part of that would be all those mathematical and financial calculations and ratios and metrics. That for that specific part, definitely I recommend to have someone with you who already knows some basics of finance or financial modeling. It can be an advisor that you bring, or it can be some services that you get from accelerators or from the community that you are part of that. Especially if there are some aspects like legal or accounting, so you have to be really careful about it. And I guess even with Gen AI, you can also get some help with the cautious that we talked about it. But overall, I guess it's important that you know all those assumptions. So that's the key part of it. The rest is mathematics. So the other thing is that if you're alone as a main founder, again, I recommend it's always good to have a co-founder who can actually fit or complete your skill sets. Like if you are too much, for example, into the product side of the business, it's always good to have someone beside you who knows more about the market or negotiations or communications or storytelling and things like that. So that would also be recommended to have another co-founder beside you.
All right, moving on to the next question. How can you present your business plan persuasively? Because at the end of the day, in many contexts, it is about persuading someone who's reading that business plan to decide to bet on those ideas, to invest in that business. So how can we write persuasive business plans?
I guess we actually touched on that a little bit, especially when it comes to presentation. Again, I want to echo the importance of the storytelling and talking about the main problem rather than just talking about the product or service itself. If you have some slides, to try to make it as short as possible. Do some research before presenting that in front of your investors. Definitely all those investors or angel investors or banks, they already have a portfolio. You can reach out to some of their other founders. You can have a coffee chat with them. You have to learn about what are the key terms or items that specific investor actually cares a lot about it. And have confidence. I guess that's the most important part. So they really would love to see that you are confident about your idea. Again, you cannot guarantee the business, but if you know all those assumptions behind your idea, you can show the confidence when you are presenting it to someone.
All right, moving on to the last question. If you could only focus on improving one part of a business plan, what would it be and why?
I think improving the business plan, I more want to talk about like how you would improve your business plan as opposed to a specific part. Because, I mean, you could improve any of the specific parts and, you know, whether that's more detailed, like cash flow estimations, that might help you in some contexts, or whether it's more market research, that might help you. But I think the way to improve your business plan is not by planning more, but by actually going out and doing. And we've been talking about it throughout the panel, but really going out and, you know, trying to, you know, build a mini version of your product, get it in front of people, see if they like it. Go out, validate the problems that you're working on, find out what people are willing to pay for, really go and do the legwork. And that is what is going to help you improve the plan. I mean, you can plan forever, but it's really the doing that is going to help you improve your business.
I personally think that the financial projection is going to be the most important part of the business plan. So if you want to spend time, make sure that you are spending proper time and enough time on that financial projection. The reason is clear because at the end of the day, all those assumptions, all those items about your product, market, and everything is going to be translated to different rows in your P&L, in your financial projection. And that's actually most of the investors that they really care about it.
All right, with that, I would like to thank you for being here. Thank our panelists for accepting my invitation and offering their time. And I would like to conclude this panel session. Thanks a lot and hope to see you next week.